Good evening and welcome to APT Opinion. We're examining the latest Trump-Putin phone call and the Tomahawk missile debate. It's a high-stakes game that could redefine the future of Europe and Ukraine. You know, there's a saying in geopolitics, timing isn't everything, it's the only thing. And if that's true, then Vladimir Putin just pulled off one of the smartest pieces of timing we've seen in months. Because while the world's media was buzzing about President Donald Trump's possible decision to send long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, the Kremlin quietly picked up the phone. What followed was not a short curtsy chat, but a 2.5-hour conversation. The 8th phone call between Putin and Trump in the past 8 months. And that right there, that tells you something. You don't talk to someone 8 times in 8 months unless there's real trust, or at least serious mutual respect. And before we go ahead, let's listen into what Trump said after his call with Putin in his own words.
We just had a call, as you know, with President Putin. I thought it was a very good call, so we'll talk about it maybe later. But it went very well. I mean, we have a problem. They don't get along too well, those two. And it's sometimes tough to have meetings, so we may do something where we're separate but equal. We'll meet and talk to parties, but this is a terrible relationship the two of them have, and it's one of those things. I've seen things that nobody would believe, but this is one of them. So we're going to be meeting in Hungary. Viktor Orban is going to be hosting, and it's really something that's time.
So, what was this latest call about? In plain English, stopping another dangerous step towards escalation in the Ukraine conflict. So let's break it down. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky has been pushing hard for Tomahawk cruise missiles, American-made precision weapons with a range of over 2,500 kilometers. To put that in perspective, that's far enough to hit Moscow, St. Petersburg, or even Russian bases deep inside the country. These are not battlefield weapons, they're strategic ones. Now, from Moscow's point of view, giving those to Kiev is like giving a kid a box of matches in a fireworks store. It's reckless and destabilizing. So Putin did what a responsible leader would do. He called Trump directly. According to both the Kremlin and the White House, it was a frank and productive conversation, held in what they called an atmosphere of trust. Putin made one thing very clear. These missiles would not change the outcome of the war, but they would destroy whatever chances remained for peace, and they would wreck the US-Russia relationship in the process. And you know what? Trump appeared to agree. Here's what he said, speaking later at the Oval Office.
Well, we talked about it a little bit, didn't say much, but I do say to you, you know, we need Tomahawks for the United States of America, too. We have a lot of them, but we need them. I mean, we can't deplete for our country. So, you know, they're very vital, they're very powerful, they're very accurate, they're very good, but we need them, too. So I don't know what we can do about that.
That might sound simple, but it's actually a huge policy signal. Trump is saying, we're not here to empty American stockpiles for someone else's war. America comes first. And that's kind of exactly what Putin has been saying for years, that Washington keeps sacrificing its own national interests to fuel endless conflicts abroad. So in that sense, both leaders, although they're coming from totally different directions, are finally speaking the same language. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. This isn't just about weapons, it's about momentum. Trump has been positioning himself as a deal maker, not a warmonger. He brokered a ceasefire in Gaza, helped secure the release of Israeli hostages, and now he's suggesting he can do the same in Ukraine.
It seems to me that you know, look, it's only a field. That's all I've done in my whole life. I've made deals. I know about deals. I do it well. I don't think any president's ever ended a war, frankly.
And Putin, ever the strategist, knows how to use that. This is the moment. During the call, Putin reportedly praised Trump for being a peacemaker, congratulating him on his success in the Middle East. He also dangled the possibility of deeper economic ties between Russia and the US, something both sides have quietly wanted for a long time. Then came the key development. Both leaders agreed to hold another in-person summit, likely in Budapest in Hungary. That's Viktor Orban's capital, and one of the few European cities where diplomacy can still happen without NATO breathing down everyone's neck. Okay, so their last meeting in Alaska didn't lead to a big breakthrough, but it did open the door. This one in Budapest could be the moment when dialogue truly begins. Now, while all this was happening, Zelensky was already on his way to Washington, hoping to squeeze out more military aid from Trump. He wants the Tomahawks, he wants more drones, he wants more air defenses. Basically, anything that might help to turn the tide on the battlefield. But here's the thing, even Western analysts admit that no weapon, not even Tomahawks, can change the core dynamics of this war. Russia holds the strategic initiative. It's advancing in key areas, adapting to Western technology, and sustaining its military production despite sanctions. It's also just managed to make most of Europe pour substantial money into a drone wall instead of directing it to Ukraine. Putin's aide, Yuri Ushakov, put it plainly. Giving Ukraine more long-range missiles won't change the situation on the ground. What it will do is increase the risk of a much bigger confrontation, one that could easily spiral beyond Ukraine's borders. And here's what most of the analysts will not say. Even inside Washington, there's growing fatigue. Americans are questioning why billions keep flowing into Kiev, while basic issues at home remain unresolved. Trump senses that frustration, and he is capitalizing on it. His argument is simple. The US should not be bankrupting itself trying to save a government that's shown little progress on peace talks, on democracy, or even on corruption control. And Russia's message is equally straightforward. It will achieve its goals no matter how many weapons the West sends. Moscow's objectives, securing its new territories and ensuring that Ukraine never again becomes a NATO launchpad, haven't changed one bit. So, let's connect the dots. The Kremlin believes this whole Tomahawk debate was a trigger for Putin's phone call, and it worked. The mere idea of a potential deal, a possible peace summit, might be enough to stop Washington from pressing ahead with risky new arms deliveries. In other words, Putin didn't need to threaten. He simply offered dialogue. And that's powerful diplomacy. Because for Trump, image matters. He wants to be seen as the man who ends wars, not starts them. And Putin's giving him that chance, an opening to step into history as a mediator between East and West. Now, whether this will actually lead to peace, that's still an open question. The Kremlin hasn't offered any new concessions. Ukraine continues its attack on Russian infrastructure, including drone strikes on oil depots, which have led to fuel shortages across parts of Russia. But those attacks haven't changed Moscow's position. If anything, they've only hardened it. Russia's leadership has been clear. Peace will come only when its core security concerns are met, meaning the end of NATO's military influence in Ukraine and recognition of the territories now under Russian control. And that brings us back to where we started. Timing. Putin knows when to act, when to speak, when to wait, and when to make his move. By calling Trump right before Zelensky's Washington visit, he ensured that the entire narrative shifted. Suddenly, instead of headlines about US missiles to Ukraine, the world is talking about a Trump-Putin peace summit. That's smart statecraft. And if this Budapest meeting does happen, and all signs suggest it will, it could mark the first real diplomatic reset since the start of the war. Because whether the West likes it or not, the reality is this: Russia is not isolated. It's engaging with the US, it's trading with BRICS, it's expanding its influence across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. And every call, every meeting, every carefully timed move only strengthens its position as a central player, not a pariah. So while Western pundits still talk about Putin's miscalculations, the real miscalculation may be theirs, thinking that Western pressure alone could bend Russia. The phone call proved otherwise. Putin called, Trump listened for 2.5 hours. And for now at least, the missiles are still on the ground, not in the air. And that might just be the closest thing to peace this war has seen in months. The world is changing every day. As these high-stakes moves unfold, it's more important than ever to stay informed and understand the bigger picture. It's not just about weapons or summits, it's about strategy, security, and the future of Europe and the world. Stay ahead of the story, question the narratives, join the conversation, and for more in-depth analysis and updates, subscribe to APT, because understanding the story matters.